I saw that many times as well, consultants not being able to sell or push a product. And so they would sell it for either a discount, or they would put it in like a freebie box or something, like, hey, you bought so much in product and now you get this the freebie box, and here's old expired lotions or whatever.
A gift of expired lube. Enjoy. Girl, you need to sip from that cup because you're spilling some tea. In part 1 of this interview, we learned about Patty Brisbane, a single mother of 4 and a physician's assistant who launched Pure Romance in 1993. Today, let me introduce you to her son and Pure Romance CEO, Chris. Chris started working for his mother's company at 24 years old. Here's Chris recording himself on a plane. Here's Chris recording himself on a podcast. Here's Chris on stage. Here's Chris in his activewear. Here's Chris's small package.
Luck is great. I appreciate everybody that walks up to me and goes, hey, Chris, you are so lucky to do what you do. It's so lucky to be able to, operate your business. And I bet it's, so lucky to see what you've kind of built. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. If you see me in the streets, you see me at an event, the last thing I want you to do is walk up to me and tell me I'm lucky. Here's the deal. We respect money, our kids respect money.
But how can you teach children to respect money when the Pure Romance income disclosure on their website states the average median income for a Pure Romance independent consultant was only $111 in 2020? But who's here for the math? Silly numbers. Chris's website hosts a long list of banging accomplishments, and he has a new book out called The Secret Is You: How I Empowered 250,000 Women to Find Their Passion and Change Their Lives. Yet, on his website, it states Pure Romance has only 200 corporate employees and 26,000 independent consultants. So I'm not sure where that 500,000 number came from. There's those silly numbers again. Maybe he tells us in the book, but I'm not reading it.
Chris, what advice would you give for people looking to advance their careers?
I think more and more people have understood that they are going to come into 2021 and they're not just going to have a job, right? Job stands for just over broke. We're just getting by. We're just barely able to make it. I think more and more people are saying, look, I'm going to take Warren Buffett's kind of mentality around my job, my business, and my finances, which is I'm going to have a secondary stream of income. So that's why I think more and more people are going to take control of their future with their finances and the things that they're doing. So people are looking for side hustles right now. And why I put this book out is I don't want to see them fail. I hope the biggest takeaway is that people understand that they can design their futures. They can design their life.
When a company tells you that you're going to spend more time with your children, they're lying.
You could say Chris is a man who doesn't like to be tied down, as he promotes that he travels 200 days a year giving motivational seminars and personally training female Pure Romance consultants worldwide. Yep, he's vibrating with energy. As a thought leader and game changer, Chris loves to crack that whip and give sage advice such as,
I love my time in the morning because it's my mental time, it's my focus time, it's what do I got to get done time. The world is sleeping. They sleep in. Not successful people, we get up early. We attack it. When everybody's sleeping, that's our opportunity.
Who does that sound like?
I worked my ass off to have the money, to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. Most people won't work this hard. Most people won't get up at 4 a.m.
You gotta love that smell of privilege in the morning. When not traveling, Chris gets tickled by showing off his mansion to his local news station. Influencer style, baby.
Want to peek inside one of Cincinnati's most fabulous addresses? How about the CEO of Pure Romance's house? Well, tonight, come with us.
Inside Jessica and Chris Ciccinelli's Indian Hill home, and you find a breathtaking entry room, modern, sleek, and open.
It was definitely set up for entertaining to have people over. We have a nice, a large family that gets together on Sundays for dinner.
The overall aesthetic is clean, warm, and welcoming. And so you're probably wondering, in this modern masterpiece, what does the president of Pure Romance's bedroom look like?
Everybody always asks me if I have a red room, and I always say, no, I don't have a red room. There's no swings hanging from my, my bedroom.
only thing hanging in the bedroom. It's beautiful artwork.
That's a lot of lube money. In part 1, we heard shocking claims and got a behind-the-scenes look from an ex-Pure Romance consultant. But darling, that was just foreplay. Hang on to that junk in your trunk and put down your toys for a second, because we've got some dirt today. I'm so glad our Pure Romance Jane Doe decided not to be the good girl and speak out. This is the rest of her story, as told to me.
But you can't really express it inside the company, because if you do, you're told that everything that happens in your business is completely your fault. You know, oh, that person canceled, that's your fault because you didn't host this coach well enough. Oh, that person didn't have enough people there, that's your fault because you didn't teach her how to make sure that she had enough people there. You know, oh, those people showed up and they didn't shop. Well, that's your fault because you told them, you didn't make it clear that they should come with money. You know, and it's like, there's some parts of town that they just don't have effing money. Okay. And some of these consultants, let me tell you what, they were really honest about the fact that they're like, oh, I only go to this nice neighborhoods. I don't mess with those. You know, they would say stuff like that. Like, that is messed up.
Wow.
I think that it was very evident that there was a very like a class style of way that Pure Romance functioned. Because I, you know, like I said, I was like, you know, I would be like, let's say I was like 5 years in, and another consultant would ask me like, hey, how long have you been in the business? Those were always the interview questions. Like, when you're in convention, they're like, how long have you been in? Who's your upline? What's your rank? Those 3 questions were always asked. And I would tell them, oh, you know, I had a lot of beef with my sponsor. I didn't talk to my sponsor for like maybe like 3 or 4 years, and then until after I left.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a lone ranger. I told my sponsor I was like, do not ever contact me again.
What happened, if you don't mind me asking? Because that's rare, because usually, you know, the sponsor is somebody that their distributor trusts, that it could even be a family member or a close friend or a coworker that they signed up with, and you're expected to have that guidance from your sponsor or your upline for a long time, and the whole time you're in, and they're somebody you look up to. What happened that would make you not talk to her for 3 to 4 years?
Just so much drama. It was so much drama. I can't even like.
Who was she to you? How did she get you in, or how did you reach out to her?
I remember I signed just that night, so I had never met her before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was like a complete stranger to me. That first year, I was doing really well. You know, I did a lot of parties. I signed a lot of people. I was just like, you know, an all-star in her eyes, and I was her golden goose. And I actually was able to get her to like the board of directors meetings and stuff because I sponsored so much in the beginning. But then we kind of lived in a smaller town. And that's when it started to get really messy. I was growing too fast, and she didn't like that.
That would only help her.
Exactly. You would think. But I was messing with her coin at that point, you know? So I feel like she saw me, even though I know she would never admit this, but I feel like she saw me as a threat. She said, I remember I telling her, I was like, oh, I just, you know, I can't wait till my team grows to like a blah, blah, blah. And I want, you know, this girl, she looks like she's going to be a rock star, you know, whatever. And then she said, yeah, it's all nice and dandy until they start nipping at your heels. And it wasn't until then that I realized that she doesn't really take too fond to my growth. And she just, you know, if she really was like a leader that if you didn't say yes, ma'am, it was a problem. And I am not a yes ma'am type of person.
What?
Yeah. She really she didn't like anybody to disagree with her or to question her ever. And her plans were the plans. And if you didn't go with the plan, then you were not in the plan, you know? So
Wow.
eventually we just butt heads so much. And then I ended up moving. And I think this is probably a reason why my growth was never huge, was because I moved a lot for a couple of years there. And so whenever you move, it's like you're restarting your business all over again.
That would make sense because you guys couldn't really do your business online. You could only do parties. So do they not allow you to do online parties?
At the time, they weren't really big. You know, online parties weren't really like a thing.
That makes
Now
sense.
they are, especially with the pandemic. But they weren't really like something that was the focus. You know, the focus was more just like parties. So I felt like at the time it felt like I was restarting my business all over again. So I moved to another state, and it didn't get better. I thought that it would, but it was just, our relationship was just too tainted. And anytime that I had issues with like one of my downlines and corporate was involved, it was like she would blame me and corporate would be like, well, your sponsor said this. And I'm like, that's not true, you know?
So
So
they believed her over you because why, was she higher ranked or something?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So she was always believed. And there's just a lot of other drama. Like, the other thing that really kind of started it was we all took a trip to Vegas and this was actually in slumber parties. I think this was like the beginning of our TIFFs. We were in slumber parties, and they didn't offer like actual trainings there as much as, you know, Pure Romance does with like booking and sharing, you know, and all that stuff. So we went to Vegas for this, it was called Education Celebration. And we would go there. It was just a very, just put together like at a, you know, hotel kind of place, you know, nothing crazy. And I remember I couldn't afford to stay at the hotel that they were all staying at. And she said, she was really angry. And there was another girl who was staying with me because she couldn't afford the hotel either. We just stayed at another cheaper hotel. She said that when the time came, like we were like, hey, can we come over? You know, they had like they were staying at like a resort, you know, and we wanted to come over to the pool area.
Yeah. You want to be with your team.
Yeah, exactly. And she said, sorry, you guys can't come. We already asked the hotel and they said that you weren't allowed to come. And she didn't know that I had already asked the hotel before. And I said, actually, that's kind of funny because I called the hotel and they said it was fine.
Oh.
It was like, I felt like I would call her out on her shit often. And it was just those things that just led to us like not being okay at all. And what kind of pissed me off was like, she would always like claim my numbers. You know, she'd be like, oh, you know, so-and-so is in first place again, blah, blah, blah. But me and her didn't talk, you know, and she was always like collecting a check on me and all this stuff. But we had no communication at all. So I always felt like it was kind of messed up. And finally, one day, I don't really know what happened, honestly. I can't even really think about it. But I just emailed her and I said, just don't contact me anymore. This is just too much. And that was maybe 3 years into it. Because it was
Wow.
drama, like never ending drama. I remember I was having an issue with a person on my team, and she was really messed up. And I felt kind of stuck because her husband was my husband's boss. So I couldn't do anything. Like I was really just stuck. And I remember sitting in my closet, like crying, you know, while she was at my house for a team meeting. Because she was so mean to me. She was so terrible. And I was
Your upline or the...
No, yeah, the girl who was on my team. And I remember calling my upline and telling her, you know, I don't know what to do. Just like literally in like a fetal position, like crying in my closet. I was like in my early 20s, you know, so everything was like, I don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember her saying like, you know what, you can't keep calling me with all these problems, and saying stuff like that. That was often like, she just told me like, you have to just buck up and get over it.
So your husband's boss, his wife, joined your team. So she joined under you, correct?
Hmm.
And then she came over to your house and she was making you cry. Why?
Just, different stuff. Like she would call me stupid. She would call me names. It was like she knew that she could say whatever she wanted to me.
Oh, because they had control over your husband's employment.
Basically. Yeah. So, I mean, that was messy, but besides the point, I mean, it sucked that I didn't even have my sponsor support in that, you know, I didn't have anybody. And so after that, it was like maybe a year after that I sent her that email and I said, I just do not contact me anymore. And I actually did better after that. I did well on my own, but never enough that I was succeeding in the company's eyes. I didn't really have anybody who I could ask for help because even the other uplines that I would ask, they would say, well, I have all these spots on my team that, I'm going to start taking calls on Tuesday, but, whatever's left over you can have. And there was like never stuff that was left over,
Mm-hmm.
I just was a lone ranger for real.
Yeah.
So, it didn't really like make me want to stay with the company, and if anything, they just made me feel like I was wrong, like I was crazy for questioning stuff. It just became really unhealthy.
I
Very
can.
unhealthy
Oh, I'm
environment.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it was just a very unhealthy environment, just a lot of drama, just spitefulness.
There's a lot of unhealthy things that happen between the relationships involved in an MLM team. Because you get so close to these people and you go on these retreats, you go to Vegas, you share hotel rooms together, you learn about their families, you learn about their kids, and you take all these business trainings together and you build this business side by side and the sisterhood is real. And really inappropriate things happen because at the end of the day, you're just a 1099 contract worker. You are your own boss in the eyes of the law. And, you're not, so at a normal job, you wouldn't be having this like, oh, we're like a sister, we're a family, it's just amazing. And like, if a good friendship develops from a regular job, cool. But it's really insidious in MLM. And I can only imagine in an MLM like yours, were distributors sharing intimate parts of their sex life and with each other and like that just seems so inappropriate and crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was just kind of like consultants in pure romance are pretty open in that sense. They just say whatever, as far as like their sex life goes.
Did their spouses know they were sharing that information?
Probably not. Probably not. But we were always instructed, like, you don't share stuff about your own sex life at parties, which is, that still happened. Like there were still consultants out there that were sharing stuff about their sex life during demos and whatnot. So that wasn't anything new, but as far as like the culture of pure romance, it really is like, if you're not at the top, then you're basically at the bottom. And so people would be like, well, what's your rank? Who's your sponsor? Blah, blah, blah. That made it very awkward for me at every single convention because I didn't have a relationship with my sponsor. And the view was always that I was like, oh, what did you do to cause that? And every time that I would be talking to somebody who was at like a level that like I was at, like in the middle, but for some reason my team dropped, because you had to, like, if any, you basically had to make sure that your team was maintained every month. I know other companies, like once you rank up to a certain whatever, you keep that title, but that's not the way it is in pure romance. If you, for some reason, like 1 month your person falls and then the next month another one falls or whatever, like you demoted twice in 2 months. So however many is on your team is what rank you're going to keep at. So,
Right.
Often people were like, I really got to make sure that I make certain ranks so that convention, people don't see that I'm like a senior consultant. They wouldn't say it like that, but they're like, I really want to be a director by convention time.
Oh yeah, I remember that. They would always have you set, like in one of my companies, they had these like regional people who from the corporate who would work in certain regions of the country, and the distributors who had been doing well, they would like try kind of coach them every once in a while. You could schedule like a Zoom call with them, and they would be like, okay, convention's coming up in 3 months and you have to be this certain rank to attend this one. So how are you going to get there? How can I help you set those goals? And it was so much pressure.
Yeah, because then there was like certain classes that you were eligible for if you were a certain rank. And I'm like, well, I've been in for how many years? Like, there's only so much you can teach me about booking a party. Like, I'm tired of learning about the same thing just because I don't like to sponsor.
Yeah.
So it really does keep you in like a certain class of people. Like, you're down here and we're up here because we're wearing red tags and we get to go to these classes. You're wearing a yellow tag. You're a loser. Go to those classes. Like, not that was like ever said, like verbally said.
It's implied.
But it is implied, because you see the separation of who's going to those classes and who's going to these classes, And so I think that was another thing that I felt like it was very toxic, like I am a valuable person, whatever label that you put on me, I'm still valuable. My knowledge is valuable. And it wasn't, though, to other consultants when they would talk to me, they're like, oh, you're just a senior consultant. Bye. Like, it was just like their whole demeanor changed.
It's so sad. I saw that all the time. In MLM, that's the thing. You could have been selling $10,000 a month, just yourself. And it wouldn't matter because you haven't hit rank. You didn't rank up. That's how it is in the MLM industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All about recruiting.
Yeah. So the sisterhood is definitely a lie. It's not a real thing. I remember talking to other consultants who were like higher ups, and they would be like, oh, I just want my team to work. I just want them to get their asses to work, And I'm like, they're people. Like, though that was like towards the end where I was just like, why are you talking about people like that? Right. Why are we sitting here acting like these people are, so valuable when you're sponsoring them? Oh, you should never judge a woman and their abilities if they're going to sell. Because I would ask questions like that. I'm like, what if they're just like a bad salesperson? What if they're just a really awkward person? Because I feel like you also have to have some kind of tenacity or ability to like talk about this subject already.
Well, that's that subject is I would be one of those people who would be awkward when it came to selling sex toys, because I laugh when I get nervous, and I would probably be holding it down, just like laughing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So like, but you're told, like, if I would ask those questions, they would be like, well, you can't judge a person and what they're capable of. How dare you judge what their capabilities are, blah, blah, blah. But then when you're talking about, your ranking and keeping your rank and all this stuff, well, it's just a numbers game. And I would hear that constantly. Yeah. Just a numbers game, just a numbers game.
Oh, yeah.
And eventually I was like, this is stupid. Like, why this is not, it's one way here and then it's the other way over here. And it just doesn't make sense, And I think another thing that I really just want to make a point about is like consultants or sponsors saying that this is like, it sells itself, like sex sells. And you can make money with this company easily, much more easily than other ones, because we sell sex products and sex sells. And that was something that was very pushed as well inside of the company was, sex sells. So
they're more so exploiting sexual education in an effort to sell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They definitely, like I said earlier, like they capitalize on the fact that we don't have a lot of sex education. But I think I'm like, the way that I see it, I'm like, just be about it then. If you're not actually going to be sexual health educators, then just be about being sex toy people, be about it. But you're never going to get a conservative person in Alabama to sign up to sell your stuff if you guys are just a sex toy company. So you have to hide behind sexual health. You know, you have to hide
Oh my
behind.
goodness.
So I think some of the worst parts that I saw about, as far as like the scumminess of like the inventory parts, there was, okay, so you know how like in LuLaRoe, like you just buy a lot of stuff because they're like, oh, you're going to get a new box, it's going to be different. Like with Pure Romance, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get. But when you sign up, you only get like your starter packet. So it depends on like what kind of starter packet you have. Either way, not all of them have everything that Pure Romance has, because Pure Romance has a pretty large catalog. So let's say you signed up to do Pure Romance and you only have X amount of friends. Well, once you've done that first show with them, and let's say you signed up, they booked another party with you, they want to do another one, but you already showed all your stuff. So now you have to buy more product so that you're not demoing the same demo again. And the way that they tell you to get around that is like, oh, we'll just cut your demo in half and then just do half now, half later, do demo A and B. But you can only do that so many times before you have to start buying more product. So your people don't come to your shows and they're not like, we already saw this. Like, where's the new stuff at? So one, the way that Pure Romance gets around that is that they have a new product drop. I would say at least once a quarter, if not more. So you're constantly buying product to put into your demo because, oh my gosh, ladies, new products came out. Everybody's got to book a party again. That was last catalog. New catalogs just came out. Book a party. Limited edition stuff just came out. Book a party, So you're constantly having to replenish not only the demo that you're going to have to use to show and present these products to these women, but also the inventory for that, because the other thing that Pure Romance pushes a lot is that if you're going to have these parties, you have to have inventory, because people are going to be horn dogs and they're going to be all excited and ready to
Horn dogs.
Yeah, they're ready to go to Pound Town. They don't want to go home with an empty basket,
But what happens? I thought women hated sex, so how can they be horn dogs?
Exactly. Yeah, so you need to have products on hand, basically. And they have like all these statistics about like, this is, how much more you'll sell if you have this in hand and blah, blah, blah. And so they have this other, like a program kind of, if you signed up, I don't know if they still do it, but they did when I was there, and it wasn't too long ago. It's called the IAP, and it's called the Inventory Advantage Program. And essentially what that is, it's $1,000 worth of inventory that they front you. So you get that right after you get your kit, like in the same setting. You can do it on the same day. Okay. Haven't even booked a party. Don't know if anybody's going to book a party with you. All this. Okay. So they front you all this inventory, and then you, over the next 5 months, are going to make a payment every single month.
Oh, do they charge interest?
They don't charge interest.
Okay, good.
They don't. But you only get retail credit. Although you are paying for $1,000 worth of product, you only get retail credit for $800 of it. However, if you're a sponsor, you really want these people to sign up with the IAP, because you don't get a bonus from a person's kit. You get a bonus from the IAP though, because that's retail. So this is something that has been pushed a lot through the company. And I think it's a little messed up because not a little messed up. It's very messed up because if you're not able to book parties and you're not able to push all that product, you're stuck with that bill, and Pure Romance will send you to collections. So not only are you in debt, but you're also you're ruining your credit.
So they're like, sign up. You're going to get, with our IAP program, you're going to get $1,000 worth in sex toys or lube or lingerie or whatever, but you really only get $800, correct?
800 retail. So it's like
retail. Okay.
Yeah. So it's only, I don't know if that makes sense. So like you have your, as far as like retail is like how much money you've spent with, or how much product you've sold with the company. So like, let's say I did $1,000 in retail for the month of March. That's how much I've sold. I didn't buy that for $1,000, although I probably did spend $1,000 because the shipping is so expensive. But I get, like, if I was just a starting off consultant, I would get 30% buying discount on that. Although on my chart, on my back office, it'll say you've sold 800 in retail, although you still got $1,000 fronted to you, they're only giving you recognition of 800 of that. And so your sponsor collects a check on that $800 retail, if that makes sense. It's only about like 3%, but if you do that enough times, they adds up.
So it's like their creditor program, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess.
Because if you don't pay it, then they send you to collections. And how many people want to quit after the first month or 3 months or 60 days, like you said, and then they're stuck with this bill?
Absolutely. I can tell you, I have witnessed it where women signed up, got the IAP, never stayed, not even booked one party, but they had to still pay it off. So you're stuck with so much inventory, and you just spent the last $200 that you have to your name, right? To start this business, and you weren't able to book a party, but now you're $500 in debt.
Oh my gosh. I'm honestly shocked that they don't charge interest on it, but
yeah, me too.
Oh my gosh, that is horrible. That's just, yeah, it's like the MLM company, like you can't, the longer I've been out of it, the more I realize just how backwards everything is, because like you can't talk about how you help people reach financial freedom when you are knowingly putting people in debt and encouraging it. And then people get a profit when they put those people in debt.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember like that training when they first came out with it, they had, of course, like one of the best sellers in the company come and do the trainings. And I remember asking her, like, how does this even work? And she was like, listen, you're going to sell this to them just like you sell anything else. If you can sell them a $20 or $200 dildo or vibrator, you can sell them the IAP. It's the same thing. You're just selling them an IAP. And that's how we were trained.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because the IAP now is a product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, how are you? We're never allowed to sell stuff to a sponsor, to a recruit ever until now. Now we can sell stuff,
Wow. That is so scary. Let's dig into the dirt. What is one of the craziest things you've ever heard a distributor say when it came to like the sex advice they gave or what they shared with the team or something you experienced?
Gosh, I'm trying to think because I feel like I've heard, I feel like if I go back in time, I would be appalled because I've I've personally taken more sexual health courses. I really do aspire to work in sexual health, as I progress through my education. Just I think, okay, so one of the craziest things that I saw, and this doesn't really have to pertain to like what somebody said. I remember there was a consultant here in my city who had said that she needed help with her inventory. And I was like, okay, I can go and help you organize it, whatever. And I go into her house and I was just like, I go into her office and I've never, in my whole time that I was with Pure Romance, I'd never seen anything like this. It was like literally the entire floor, shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves all the way to the ceiling. The closet full of lingerie, just product and product. And so like every single vibrator that we ever had, ever had sold, she had it in that office. Everything. I mean, I'm talking about maybe at least $100,000 worth of product at the very least, at the very minimum. And I asked her, I was like, how did this happen? What happened? Like, why do you have so much product? And she's like, I don't know. I just wanted to stay in the company. And so I just kept seeing sales. And so I just, thought, well, that's a really good sale. And I just kept buying and buying and buying. And now, I have all this product. But I was like, oh, honey, some of the stuff you can't even sell anymore because they're consumable products, I'm like, that's from like 2 years ago. You can't sell that bottle. You can't sell a 2-year-old bottle of lube. That's going to cause somebody an infection. You have to throw this stuff out.
Did you see distributors, though, selling old lube and old products?
Absolutely. All the time. All the time. They're like, I would see it on like Facebook and stuff before Facebook started getting like super crazy and flagging things. I would often see it on Facebook, especially like prior consultants, like they would be still a part of a group and would be like, hey, I have this like old stuff. Does anybody want it? And so old consultants would sell their stuff to new consultants and new consultants would then sell it.
Like expired lube and vaginal tightening cream?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And nobody was like, hey, don't put that down there. It's expired.
No. Or consultants that I remember one of my consultant friends that I also like had helped go to one of her shows and like just give her tips or whatever, like for training. I remember looking through her inventory and seeing really old product. And I'm like, why don't you throw this out? Like, this is so old. Or if you see that it's going to go expired, you can't sell it, then just keep it yourself or something, do something with this. Like, you can't sell this to other people. And I saw that many times as well, consultants not being able to sell or push a product. And so they would sell it for either a discount or they would put it in like a freebie box or something like, hey, you bought so much in product and now you get this, the freebie box and here's old expired lotions or whatever.
A gift of expired lube. Enjoy.
Yeah.
I am in shock. Was the company ever advocating, like, do not sell expired product? Like, throw it away. Don't even use it on yourself. Throw it away.
No, I don't really remember them saying anything like that. I remember like them just saying like, because there's no expiration date on the bottles of lubes. So a lot of time consultants would ask, how long should I keep this? Expire. And they would, whoever was training would say, well, it has a shelf life of a year. After a year, just throw it out. So, but are consultants actually doing that?
So these products come with no expiration date on them? How? Is that legal?
I have no idea.
Girl, you need to sip from that cup because you're spilling some tea. Oh my gosh. For anybody who can't see, she just took a big old swig from a mug. Oh my gosh. That is scary. That is so scary because the infections this can cause. Did you ever hear, this goes back to like the shame and embarrassment of people not wanting to share because of the subject matter. Did you ever hear of like ex-distributors saying like, I got such a horrible infection, or I had to go to the emergency room, or I had sold to somebody who then had to go and it was a nightmare, or anything like that?
Not really, because when a person left Pure Romance, like they were just kind of dead to us.
Right.
You know?
And I could see if somebody did say those things, you know, it's common in the MLM industry. If somebody leaves, well, no, they're a negative, toxic, bitter person. You don't believe anything they say. They're just going to say whatever just because they're negative. So they're lying.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You know, you never really hear from those consultants ever again. And the other thing is, like, I feel like consultants, when they leave, they're embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
think
You feel like a failure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how I felt. So the first time that I actually ever talked about my experiences with an MLM was with Roberta Blevins.
I love her.
I know. I talked to her on Friday, actually, and that was the first time I had ever expressed or even verbally spoke about my experiences inside an MLM. And so this is the second time I have ever talked about it publicly. I have never spoken about my time. And it's been almost 2 years now. You know, that should attest to how much people just shut the F up and do not say anything after they leave.
And what was it for you when you walked away that made you want to just shut down and not talk about it?
You know, when a company tells you that you're going to spend more time with your children, they're lying, or your husband or your partner or any, you know, whatever life circumstances that they say that they got the solution for, it's a lie. It will consume your life. It will consume it. Even if it's part-time, it's never part-time. It will become full-time. It's a lie, you know. Either you quit or you commit. It's neither or, you know, like in between, you know? So I remember I was feeling just so stressed all the time. I was really having massive anxiety attacks. I just wasn't, I felt like a failure because I was like, how have I been in this company for this long and I freaking suck? Like, why am I not succeeding? You know, I felt like I'm a smart woman. I am valuable. I don't understand why I can't grow. Like, what is wrong with me? So I kept coming up with like different, you know, event ideas, and I would do like movie events for my customers. And I mean, I did whatever I could to make my business succeed. And then I remember I had a clipboard, and I always, every single night before I went to bed, I had this clipboard of like all this to-do stuff to do the next day. And these are my goals, and this is my monthly goal, and this is my daily goal, and this is my weekly goal, and, you know, just goal, you know? And I remember I just sat there and I was just like fuming, and I just sat and stared at this list. And then I just started to cross stuff off. I was like, what if I cross off everything that pertains to Pure Romance? And I just started to cross everything off that list. And I only had like 3 things on the list afterwards. And it was like the heavens like, opened up. And I was like, it just clicked at that moment. I said, this is consuming my life. And I'm not even, in my book at the time, like, I'm not even successful at it. Now, in hindsight, it's not that I wasn't successful at it. It was that I was in a system that was built to not enable me to be successful unless I completely went against my values, which was sponsoring. I just hated sponsoring, you know? So, and also the party life, it's getting hard to book parties in home, you know? Now everyone's doing online parties, but the thing about that is all these flash sales, you know, you, of course, if you are undercutting your products, you're selling them for cheaper, you're going to sell more. Absolutely, you're going to sell more. That's not a surprise. So every time that I see like, oh my gosh, I had a $20,000 flash sale, like, sure you did. But you know what? I know you didn't make the same profit that you normally do. You know, you made sure that all that stuff was cheaper. So it's a lie. You know, it's a lie that all of these consultants are making money and thriving. They're not, you know, and I was one of those too. On social media, nobody knew how much I was struggling. No one. Everyone thought that I was doing great with my numbers. Other consultants would, you know, DM me and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're just such an inspiration and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, ugh, you should see my numbers because they suck, you know? But
Yeah, you can't project anything that would say that you're not successful to the public.
no, absolutely not. So it wasn't until that moment when I did that I was like, I have to leave. And I actually didn't leave until like after that. I didn't leave for like months because I had parties on the books, and then just random people would be like, hey, can we do this and blah blah blah. And I started telling people that I was leaving, and so they're like, oh, let's do just like one more, you know, before you go. And but they were just not fulfilling, and they were just not successful either. You know, they were just like they validated, if anything, my feelings of wanting to leave because, you know, you hire a babysitter if you have to. Sometimes I would have to. You hire a babysitter. Most times I would have to actually. And then you go to a stranger's house and you have to wait until their husband and kids leave, which is always awkward because that's so sad. You know, the kids are like, why do we gotta leave? What's mommy doing? You know? And you have to wait forever for people to show up because it doesn't matter how much you tell people, although the company will say it's your fault if they're late. But people show up late, and then you do this party. And for me, I really liked education. I mean, I spent a lot of my own time educating myself. You know, I took those courses, and I took other courses as well. And I tried to really, towards the end, I really made sure that I wasn't just talking out of, you know, just talking hot air. You know, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was talking about.
And that you weren't selling expired lube.
Yeah. You know, I wanted to be a little bit more ethical. And so, you know, and then you do all this prep work for these parties, even the hostess coaching. That takes, typically it takes a month for the party to actually happen. It was rare for like you to book a party that was like in 2 weeks or something like that. It's typically like a month, you know, so you're hostess coaching for an entire month, you hire a babysitter, and then what happens if they don't shop? You know, you're in the red then. You've spent over a month prepping for this party that women, it's not their fault. You know, they just didn't have the money, and that's okay, you know, but it sucks at the same time because you just worked for free and you can't charge people fees. I wish I could charge people a fee, like, okay, I need a retainer or something. Like, you need to put some money down.
And the company wouldn't let you do that?
No, absolutely not. No, you cannot do that.
Wow.
You have to basically work for free until the point of the party actually happens and they actually go into the shopping room. Because a lot of times they just go to their girlfriend's house, they get drunk, they eat some cheese and wine, and then they leave, you know, and then you're left there like, you know, again, I want to cuss, but you're left there like, okay, that sucked. And you can't do anything about it. And then they're like, oh, well, let's just book a party and then the next one will shop. And I'm like, great, you know, and you take what you can at that point. But higher ups will tell you otherwise. They'll say, well, you didn't host this coach well enough, and you let that happen because of this, and you didn't, assert yourself enough. And it's always your fault. It's never the fact that, these are just circumstances that happen sometimes, that people don't always have money to spend on this stuff, especially because the cheapest thing in the catalog is $20. And then you have to pay $7 shipping, no exceptions, even if I have it there, because I have to pay for that stuff to come back, and the shipping is so expensive. It doesn't matter if I collected money from them for shipping or not. I'm still going to be in the red on shipping, always, because the shipping is so expensive from Pure Romance. If I'm buying one bottle of lube from Pure Romance, I'm going to pay $20 shipping, minimum. And it's not like you could ship the same product through USPS for $3, $2.65 or something, like you can ship it for way cheaper. So there's just a lot of other hidden fees that people aren't aware of. Like if you sign up, you're going to have to buy a table. You're going to have to buy pens. You're going to have to buy catalogs often. What about, if you want to process credit cards, you have to buy a Square chip reader, or whatever else is out there, like there's just a lot of little, hidden fees that you don't know, or not, just other supplies that you're going to have to, buy, like a tablecloth, or, what if you want to, bags to put all this stuff in. And also, like once you really get into it, then they're going to be like, well, what about your car decal? And what about, the printable? They have their own like back office printable, so that you can buy a banner if you're going to do expos and everything else for the expo. And it's just,
my last company was like that. It was exhausting.
It's a never ending pit of what to buy. Yeah. You will spend more money than you will make, at least in the first year, at the very least. Like if I were to say the very minimum, you're going to spend a lot of money. And the answer to that is always, well, it's just like any other business out there. You're going to spend a lot of money in the beginning, and then it'll just kind of even out. And that's a lie, because you're always going to have to buy new product as well to keep relative with these people.
You know what's really sad? And that this one, because it's a sex MLM. So that might not sound right how to say that, but they sell sexual products for your sex life. When somebody leaves an MLM and they feel like a failure, they feel distraught, they feel like they're being shunned now by those people they thought were their friends. It's really hard when you have leftover product to see it and to be like, man, like it's a reminder all the time in your head, but maybe somebody doesn't want to waste it because they spent so much money on it, And I can't imagine how that might affect a woman's own sex life, because she has all these toys, she has the lube, she has the creams that she bought, and now what if she like goes to have sex with her girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, and that product is right there. And it's like, bam, mood killer, and then all those horrible feelings all over again. That's so sad.
Yeah, that could be definitely like a subliminal type of like subconscious unknowing of how that may negatively affect your sex life. So I could definitely see that happening in someone's sex life. Unless you're detached from it and you're just like,
which it's really hard to walk away and just completely detach, because there were so many cult-like tactics used with the toxic positivity, the love bombing, the influence to spend more and yada, yada. And then, if I do this, or if I get this rank, I'm going to be included in these special trainings and my upline's going to show me more attention. And just, it's really hard to just detach from that and be like, I'm good, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's definitely true as well. I do still have some Pure Romance products in my house, because the same thing. I don't want to. I'm not going to throw them out. I'm going to use that stuff because And it is one of those things where I'm like, I have to just like not associate it, because I'm going to try not to think about that stuff if I'm going to make love.
Which is still hard, and that
Yeah.
sucks, because if I see an old makeup product that I still have that I didn't throw out because I'm like, okay, I don't want to waste it, I want to use it up. That's different than seeing something that affects your sex life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sad.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you want people to know? Because you've given a great interview. You've shared so much, and it's on such an important topic, because even in 2021, we still don't have, the sex health education that we probably should. And there's a big attack on Planned Parenthoods all around the country, which is so upsetting. So what do you want people to know in closing?
I want people to know that if they're going to a pure romance party to get sex education, that there are other sources out there. Planned Parenthood is a great source of sex education. Although, they have some kind of negative gloom over them because of one tiny part of what they do for, preventing pregnancies. Not their consultants are not as educated as they appear to be. The education is minimal. And if you are thinking about joining this company because it will fulfill a need that you have, honey, there are so many other ways of fulfilling that need. If you need a part-time job, then go and find a part-time job, because I guarantee you will spend more money than you would probably make more money at McDonald's getting a part-time job there than you would ever with joining Pure Romance part-time. And the people that say that they made it, it's never what it appears. Ask them how much, and honestly, I wouldn't even ask them, because they're going to tell you that they work part-time, and it's not true. It's never true, and also ask them, maybe one question that you could ask is, how long have you been in? If they're able to say that, oh, I only work part-time, but I've been in for 25 years, of course that they would have a little bit more cushion for that. But I would say it comes at a price. It comes at your price, because you're the person providing for that cushy lifestyle, unfortunately. And, things that I wish that people, or not people, but just if Pure Romance were to hear this, I would want them to know that your consultants should be educated, and or you should do your part to make sure that you're not portraying them as sex ed educators. Maybe they should call themselves sex ed advocates. It's okay to be an advocate. You can be an advocate for anything, but and it doesn't make you an expert in the field, okay? But you can still advocate for it, and that's fine. But what you're doing when you're saying that you're a sexual health educator is you are putting on this hat that doesn't fit you. It's not yours to wear, because the truth of the matter is that if you provide one page, this is literally one page. This is the sex ed on, these are just the resources. These are the books. This is vulvodynia. This is it. This is all you get. And
that's it.
This is one sentence on the causes. One sentence. One. Okay. There's so much more that goes in depth into sexual health, which is why I love this subject, which is why I'm pursuing my education to eventually be a sex therapist in the future. Another reason why I wanted to be anonymous, because I would hate for it to conflict with me, doing therapies and stuff in the future. I have learned so much more from formal education. And that's something that is really discouraged in Pure Romance, is formal education. Just to kind of add this in, the CEO often talks about how he only has a high school education. And he always makes it a point to say, well, I was 500 out of 550 students, Or a lot of the other higher ups will say stuff like, well, I have a master's degree on my wall, but I never use it. Or I'm just sitting here trying to pay off my student loan because all that my student loan did was get me in debt and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, how are you about empowering women, but you're still like not not really, you don't treat educated women the same way, or kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't praise education for actual education, like real education, formal education, the same way that you do a person who's recruited X amount of people or top in sales or whatever. The key here is you have to get educated outside of pure romance if you ever really want to learn about sex education. And the fact that they only offer 8 sources, 8, and 2 of those are their own, and 3 of those are just one line of book, so they're really only offering you like 4 different options, not even that, like 3 different outside sources. 3 different outside sources for resources. Why not educate women on where to find non-for-profits for domestic violence, or to find information on contraceptives, or recommended gynecologist offices in your area, or where to, if you can't find contraceptives for free, where to get condoms for free, or pregnancy tests for free, or, all these other sources that are out there, LGBTQ information, or, just there's so much more that goes into sexual health than just selling a vibrator. And the point is that this is a sex toy company, not a health education company for sexual health, period. And they hide behind that name, but it's not true. It's not true. And it took me 7 years to figure that out.
I wish that they had an expiration date. That is, I am worried about the infections. I am worried about that. It's scary. And like you said, I have never been in an MLM. And I was in the industry for a little over a year less than you were in. I've never been in the industry and had anyone in any company promote education. It was always what you said is, well, I got my master's degree and it didn't do me any good. Now I'm paying off all that debt and this company is helping me do it. So don't, I know you want to go to college, but it might be better to focus on your business right now. And when you have all the money and time freedom in the future, then if you really still want to go. But this is the way. This is network marketing is the way to have that stability and that financial freedom. And it's not. And anywhere or anyone that demeans education it should be a big red flag for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I left, I felt lost. I didn't know what to do. Before I had officially left, I had started to go to school. And so that education alone, just that introduction of education, because I had never been to college. And not to say that the women inside these companies are not educated. I didn't really know a lot of people inside, like my area at least, that had gone to college or had gotten some kind of formal education, or maybe they had, but it had been a long time ago, and they didn't really, I feel like sometimes we go to school in the beginning and we're really young and we don't know what we're going to school for. And I feel like sometimes that's when people fall into MLMs because they're still kind of lost in their way of like, I don't know what to do with my life, which is understandable. It's a normal feeling to have,
Absolutely.
Early 20s. So, which is, coinciding when I joined an MLM, my early 20s, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, which is very like cult tactic, when they approach you when you are the most vulnerable, when you are not sure what to do with your life, so afterwards, pursuing my education and stuff, even after I left the MLM, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can like work at a grocery store or something. I was not saying that I was unhireable, but it was really hard for me I never got calls back
They don't
because
like to see, in my opinion, employers do not like to see an MLM on your resume. It
no.
hurts you, in my opinion.
Yeah. I learned that the hard way. I never got calls back, not even to bag groceries.
And and those jobs are significant jobs. We need higher wages for those types of jobs, for fast food workers, for grocery workers. What they're paid is, it's not enough. I feel that it's not wrong to not go to college, that's okay. But at least when you go to college and let's say you switch a job after 5 to 10 years, or switch your career, you still have your degree. When you leave an MLM after 5 or 10 years, you are left with nothing. And that is a point I will reiterate until the day I die, because you are left with nothing to show for it.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's very true. I felt like people would see that, this is just like my interpretation, but I'm like that nobody is taking me seriously because of my MLM background. They look at it like I literally was unemployed for the last 7 years, So it really, it sucks. It sucks and it really was like one of the points where I was like, I really have to finish my education now. I love it. I absolutely am loving this journey that I'm on. I'm thankful for it every single day. But I think I wish I would have not, how do I say it, been so influenced. Because although Pure Romance never has come out and said, we are against women getting higher education. They've never said that. They imply it though. They imply it every single time that you show a higher up, basically, giving her master's degree a middle finger. When you do that, that message is relayed to people like myself who had drank way too much Kool-Aid and were like, oh, okay, well, I guess college isn't for everybody. And I never really even gave it a thought. My thought was always college isn't for me because this is what I'm doing. And then once I was out, I was like, oh, what do I do? And I had to go to college. I had to go to school for what I want to go into now, which I definitely, if you have a different route, totally not judging anyone who chooses not to go, but you also have a higher chance of beating poverty if you do go to college.
That's true.
So,
and y'all, like she said, there are so many things wrong with our education system, and going to college does not guarantee that you will make money, but the statistics do show, so nothing's perfect. I get people who are like, college isn't the way, or like, you're just promoting college, and I'm like, I'm not saying like college is the end all be all and it's the main thing that's going to change your life, but you're right, like the statistics show that you do have a higher chance of being more financially stable. And I didn't go to college. I have my cosmetology license. And fortunately, when I left the industry, I was able to use it because I've always kept it up and will always keep it up. But oh my gosh, like I remember feeling like you, I was like, what can I put on a resume? Because they do look at it as not a job. They look at it as just like, oh yeah, okay, you sat at home that whole time. You sat at home. And it's not like you can just show, like even me having been a 6-figure earner, I couldn't just like show, oh, look at my statements. Like, see, I did make money. I was successful. Like, how are you going to say that to somebody who's interviewing you?
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. It makes the transition out of MLM difficult, but
I'm so happy you're in school, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for speaking to my audience and sharing your story, because I know it's not easy, which is why a lot of people go anonymous.
Yeah, I have to say thank you so much. I was totally shocked and floored when you emailed me back. I was like, I can't believe it. She emailed me. I remember it's just like I still feel a little starstruck because I have been watching your show. You have no idea like how much your show has helped people. It helped me. I really didn't even fully acknowledge like how indoctrinated I was or how much like deep into it I was. until I started hearing stories of other people who, were on your show, and hearing their stories and hearing your story. I was like, what the heck? Like, I was deep into it. I didn't want to admit it, but I was, so this is really like just a amazing opportunity to be able to shed some type of light, especially on a company that doesn't really get spoken about on any kind of media that I've seen so far.
Yeah, that's very sweet of you to say. For me, the anti-MLM community has helped me so much, so much. And just like you, even when I made my first video, I didn't even realize to the extent yet of the indoctrination that had occurred. I was waking up, but I was still, and every time, the more people I interview, I'm just like, this is so terrible. This is so bad. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.